Good evening, everybody. A bombshell today at Columbia University and also in Southern California. We're going to tell you about both stories, and we want to compliment the Federalist for its reporting. California District Attorney George Gascon dropped an election data case because it might help President Donald Trump. You heard me correctly. The company in question, election software company Conic. Conic's CEO, Eugene Yu, was arrested in 2022 after his company was found to have stored data on servers in the People's Republic of China. At least that was the allegation. But the Federalist is reporting that Gascon deliberately dropped that case against Conic because he couldn't stand the idea of the case helping Trump's push for election integrity. Gascon, the George Soros sponsored DA of LA County, put politics well before the rule of law. This wouldn't be the first time it happened, if indeed that was the reasoning. This is the kind of report you simply don't see in the mainstream media. The people at the Federalist deserve great credit for this story, and we appreciate it. Well, we're living in turbulent times, but I truly believe that enough of our fellow citizens are now waking up and becoming fighters like you and me, and that we will prevail over evil that is now the Democrat Party and the Marxist Dems, of course, who lead that party, and the Biden regime itself, of course. Americans are beginning to see the light, seeing clearly that President Donald Trump is the only one who can lead this nation in these perilous times. Many of the Marxist Dems and rhinos, the establishment oligarchs, are seeing the light, even donors moving a lot of money toward President Donald Trump. And are you ready for a turnabout no one saw coming? A former backstabbing attorney general who was a real Trump hater, it turns out, professes now to have finally seen the light. That person, of course, is William Barr, the duplicitous two-face who sold out President Trump and who single-handedly denied President Trump re-election. That is my opinion. And it's backed up with the facts. And now Bill Barr is supporting President Trump suddenly because he says he now believes electing Joe Biden would be, quote, national suicide. Can you believe this? Here he is putting it on the record for whatever it's worth. And if it turns out to be the case, Barr will have made the most complete adjustment to new political realities and what should have been clear to him years ago.
You call this hush money case outrageous. And I also know you've been asked many times, you've had your disagreements with the former president. He's the presumptive nominee. We assume he will be the nominee. Will you support him in 2024?
Well, I've said all along, given two bad choices, I think it's my duty to pick the person I think would do the least harm to the country. And in my mind, that's I will vote the Republican ticket.
You will.
I will support the Republican ticket. I think the real danger to the country, the real danger to democracy, as I say, is the progressive agenda. And while Trump, and I said, Trump may be playing Russian roulette, but continuation of the Biden administration is national suicide, in my opinion.
What does Russian roulette? Just when you think he's turned a corner, he may be playing Russian roulette. Bill Barr, you are an utter and complete, well, you are flexible in your thinking at least, and we appreciate your support for anyone who is not taking us into national suicide. By the way, Joe Biden did that on Inauguration Day in 2021. You may not have noticed, Bill Barr, but that was the case, and it has been. We appreciate at least the fact that you could actually say the president's name. That would be President Donald Trump, the man you were supposed to be working for. Well, even folks in Joe Biden's vaunted hometown of Scranton, Pennsylvania, remember this is the birthplace of the mythological middle-class Joe, know that backing Joe is, we now have it confirmed by Bill Barr, it would be utterly national suicide. The protesters came out in full force Wednesday to greet the failed president with boos and epithets a bit too coarse for us. But I'll give you a hint. They were chanting FJB. There it is. And in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Joe Biden got an earful from Free Palestine freaks and red-blooded Americans fed up with his disastrous Bidenomics. They don't look like happy campers, do they? I don't think we're going to see a groundswell for Joe Biden, the Marxist Dems, the totalitarian so-called progressives. I don't think this is their year. In fact, I think we're going to see an amazing, I think we're looking at a landslide election for Donald Trump. Meanwhile, inside that Pennsylvania event, attended only by Biden campaign human props and drawing more reporters than actual supporters of President Biden, Joe Biden was as confused as usual, and this time he couldn't figure out where there are more Trump signs in his so-called political backyard.
When you drive around the area, you see a lot of Trump signs, not very many Biden signs. Do you feel like you're in trouble here?
Well, you haven't been driving the right places, pal.
Unbelievable. Have you ever seen a Biden sign? I certainly haven't. And I mean, I haven't seen a one. Not anywhere. Not posted in New York. I don't even know where you would go to get one. I guess his birthplace, Scranton, might be a good one. 81 million votes. Unbelievable. Biden making himself once again, as he told us, an unbelievably tall tale about his uncle Boosey being eaten by cannibals.
Back when D-Day occurred, and on Sunday, the next day, my mother's four brothers all went down to the recruiting station and joined the military. Every one of them volunteered. And my uncle, they called him Ambrose Boosey, they called him Boosey. My uncle Boosey was a hell of an athlete, they tell me, when he was a kid. And he became an Army Air Corps before the Air Force came along. He flew those single-engine planes as reconnaissance over war zones. And he got shot down in New Guinea. And they never found the body because there were a lot of cannibals for real in that part of New Guinea.
I have to tell you, I can't take this man seriously. There's Uncle Boosey, I guess. I don't know what we do here. Uncle Boosey, it turns out, is a real person, as these things are wont to go. But the president, once again, spinning a rather difficult yarn, fatuous even, about what really happened, proving for another time we've lost track of how many, but the hundreds. You simply can't trust a word out of this man's mouth about anything ever. And it's clear, I would think, to the Marxist Dems that right now they're not only going to lose an election, they're going to probably be set back, I'm going to say 30 to 40 years in American politics, because they have tried to destroy this country. That is one of the minor charges against them, of course. They have also tried to destroy much of the free world by putting Joe Biden and Kamala Harris at the top of a ticket when they knew perfectly well, those Marxist Dems, those Obamaites, that Biden was cognitively impaired, mentally troubled, and certainly politically compromised. It's a disgrace what they did to this country. And there's going to be, I am sure, an extraordinary consequence at the polls on November 5th. And as they say, write it down because it's on the books. A fact check in the Telegraph, putting it too politely and kindly for my liking, but saying that there is absolutely no evidence that good old Uncle Boosey encountered any cannibals in New Guinea, nor did he enlist after D-Day. That was also a little problem. He went in before the Normandy invasion and went MIA before the invasion even began. So it's a little difficult to figure out how he got to New Guinea. And to top it all off, his plane wasn't even shot down. It was ditched because of multiple engines failing. So much for the myth of Uncle Boosey, who is a figment of a pathological liar's demented imagination. That person is Joe Biden. So Biden apparently had an order of business to carry out in typically servile fashion for his Marxist STEM handlers. Here we go. And that is to announce that steel tariffs are back. Well, those would be the same steel tariffs that Joe Biden railed against when it was Donald Trump's administration and his original idea. Serial plagiarist Joe Biden strikes once more.
Taken together, these are strategic and targeted actions that are going to protect American workers and ensure fair competition. Meanwhile, my predecessor and the MAGA Republicans want across-the-board tariffs on all imports from all countries that could badly hurt American consumers. It's estimated it would cost the average American family an average of $1,500 a year if they succeeded in doing that. Trump simply doesn't get it. For years, I've heard many of my Republicans and even Democratic friends say that China's on the rise and America has been falling behind. You may have noticed the last 2 years I've been the only one disagreeing with that. I've always believed we got it all wrong. America's rising.
Well, I mean, I don't even know how the man functions. I don't know how anyone in the White House working, for whatever reason they would choose to work for a puppet, I don't understand how the man continually gets it wrong. He lies, whatever you want to call it. He is a puppet, but they keep rolling him out. At least get a spokesman. And by the way, they have two beauties, don't they? In that White House press corps briefing room. In Biden's delusional world, America is rising and communist China is on the retreat. Xi Jinping couldn't have said it any better himself because Americans are truly fooling themselves to think that's the case. In reality, we are committing national suicide, to cite Bill Barr's expression. As a reminder, here is Biden being the spineless fabulist, political weather vane that he is. Or is he just following orders? Who knows? Pouring nothing but scorn on Donald Trump's tariffs proposals back on the 2020 campaign trail.
Iowa farmers have been crushed by his tariff war with China, and no one knows better than the folks in Iowa. He thinks that being tough is great. Well, it's really easy to be tough when someone else absorbs the pain.
There he is. That's the anti-tariff version of Joe Biden. He is remarkable. By the way, these tariffs he's proposing would be about 3 times the amount that that President Trump had placed on Chinese exports. Joining us now to talk about the Biden policy reversal on China is the best-known, best-selling author of a new book I highly recommend to you. It's Blood Money and Why the Powerful Turn a Blind Eye While China Kills Americans. I have to say, Peter, first of all, thank you for being with us. It's great to see you. And did you ever think a couple of things? One, that Joe Biden would be proposing tariffs after all the excoriation of Donald Trump by the fabulous Democrat candidate?
Yeah, no, I mean, Joe Biden is certainly gifted at what you could call being a political gymnast. He's very flexible, but I don't think that the changes that he's making now are actually humanly possible. I mean, the way that he's tangled himself in policy changes is quite extraordinary. The bottom line, I think, with the Bidens is that they have this long commercial relationship with China. Chinese businessmen who are linked to the regime have sent the Bidens tens of millions of dollars. So he's as close as you're going to get to being bought and sold. I think he's bought and sold by the Chinese government, and he's going to do what is in the interest of China. And in the big things that really matter to China, he gives them what they want. So when he trots out these initiatives about, I'm going to put tariffs on steel, I'm going to get tough with China, it's really noise. The Chinese are looking for, from the people that they buy and own, a big help with a little bad mouth. They know they've got to badmouth China to maintain their political viability, but what they want is them to help them on the big things, and Joe Biden has helped them on every big thing that they can imagine.
And the big things are fentanyl, for example, is a big thing because we do lose 100,000 American lives, far more than that, as a result of fentanyl poisoning, overdoses, and that of other deadly drugs imported primarily and distributed by the Mexican drug cartels, but manufactured and sent to Mexico by China. And now the word comes that China is insisting that they boost production of those precursors and fentanyl itself, so long as is for export from the mainland. What do you think of that, and what should we be doing about it?
Yeah, I mean, look, the bottom line on fentanyl is certainly the drug cartels are involved, but they're the junior partner here. China is the senior partner. The precursors are produced in China. The production of these precursor chemicals that make up fentanyl are actually subsidized. The production is subsidized by the Chinese government. Those precursors are shipped to the port of Manzanillo in Mexico. That's where 90% of them flow. That port in Mexico is not run by an American company or a Mexican company. It's run by a Chinese company with a long history of smuggling. Those precursors are then sent to northern Mexico, where they're turned into fentanyl itself. According to our DEA, there are 2,000 Chinese nationals living in northern Mexico that are helping the cartels create this stuff. The cartels use Chinese pill presses and Chinese pill molds to create the pills that people are taking unwittingly that are laced with fentanyl and that are dying. And then when you look at the drug cartels themselves, the drug cartels use communication devices that are Chinese. Why? Because they know that China will not share the details of communications with U.S. law enforcement. And then the Mexican drug cartels now launder their money through Chinese state-owned banks. So it's the Chinese who are running this. It's the drug cartels that are the junior partners. And to your point, Lou, Joe Biden has nothing to say about this. Donald Trump raised this when he was president. He pointed the finger at the Chinese. The Chinese said they would do something about it. Of course, they lied. But at least he raised the issue and confronted China. Joe Biden has said there will be no finger pointing. Even though 100,000 Americans are dying a year from this poison, that's the kind of leadership you're getting because of this commercial relationship that exists between the Bidens and these Chinese.
And the Chinese. Give us, if you will, I'd like to hear what your thoughts are right now. There seems to be a divide on Wall Street and in corporate America about just how well the China economy is doing right now. A lot of discussion about it, and suddenly we see, almost 6% GDP growth in the first quarter, stronger than anyone had expected. Why would anyone trust the PLA, the CCP, Xi Jinping to provide us accurate numbers on their economy? But that's precisely what the business press in this country and the national corporate media is doing. What is your sense of the reality?
Yeah, I think the Chinese economy is plugging along, but it's not doing as well as they claim. And they face some really big challenges. Look, President Xi has come in and he has exerted control and authority over the Chinese commercial sector in a way that previous leaders didn't. It's always been known that the CCP runs things in China, but President Xi is determined to make that clear again and again. You have businessmen that are being told they cannot leave China, foreign businessmen, including Americans who cannot leave China because there are suspicions that there may be debts or there may be other commercial obligations that haven't been met. So they're being detained. You have this massive demographic problem that's looming. Let's remember, China's had for decades this one-child policy where you could only have one child to deal with the population issue. What that meant in China is that you aborted your child until you had a son. So you have, by some estimates, 250 to 300 million young men in China that have no prospect of finding a bride. and starting a family. These are major problems that they have in terms of their economy. The question is, Lou, do we think that this is going to make China less aggressive or more aggressive? And I think it's going to make China more aggressive. President Xi is going to become more desperate when his problems become larger, when more of the actual information about what's happening to the economy comes out. It's going to make him more aggressive, and that's going to present more challenges for us. And it's why we need to have leadership in Washington, in Congress, and in the White House that recognizes the Chinese threat and wants to actually do something about it.
And that from the man who knows best, China and their prospects and ours. And also the author of Blood Money, a terrific book by Peter Schweizer, which we recommend to you highly. Peter, thanks for being with us as always, and all the best, my friend.
Thank you, Lou. Great to be with you as always.
No, thank you. Coming up, Joe Biden, Speaker Johnson. They share, they have a very similar outlook on the Ukraine. But that's because something that was Biden's, Johnson claimed, but it turns out it was Biden's. We'll have more on the Ukraine aid bill and how he may have to, Johnson may have to turn to the Democrats. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Joe Biden is supporting Speaker Johnson's foreign aid proposal. Now, that's because it's his proposal, and it would send more of your hard-earned dollars abroad, including to Ukraine. Isn't that handy? Well, there's still no money for the border in sight, even as the invasion goes on. And little wonder that Speaker Johnson, I say that because he's not going to be that very long, I don't believe, he faces a revolt in the House. Listen to what he told reporters when asked about whether he would choose to resign.
What is your response to Republicans who say this move should cost you your job and that if you don't resign, they will try to oust you?
I am not resigning, and it is, in my view, an absurd notion that someone would bring a vacate motion. We are simply here trying to do our jobs. It is not helpful to the cause. It is not helpful to the country. It does not help the House Republicans advance our agenda, which is in the best interest of the American people here, a secure border, sound governance, and it's not helpful to the unity that we have in the body. That I am not concerned about this. I am going to do my job, and I think that's what the American people.
He's going to do his job. He's doing his job for Joe Biden and the Marxist Dems. He's not doing it for Republicans, not for the Republican conference. And the reality is his arrogance is astounding. He has been an absolute traitor to his conference, the Republican Party. He has lied about, you remember he was going to release the January 6th videos. He was going to be, very strong on spending. And now he's bloviating about he's doing his job. He hasn't done his job. Unless it is for specifically Joe Biden, then it's a bang-up job he has done. Johnson seems to think he knows what's best for the party and all Americans everywhere. No wonder Biden, a wannabe totalitarian, and by the way, he's got a good start on it, has taken something of a liking to Johnson. In case you needed another reason to dislike Johnson, Senator Rand Paul reminds you that Johnson betrayed us by supporting warrantless government spying on American citizens. Paul also blasted the speaker for working with Democrats to push more aid spending, and a debt crisis to boot. Listen to what the senator said.
The Fourth Amendment was put in by our founding fathers to protect us. FISA doesn't obey the Fourth Amendment. And so Speaker Johnson was incredibly wrong. He broke the tie. He voted with the Democrats. Here we have the leader of the Republicans in the House votes with the Democrats against a warrant requirement. We also have Speaker Johnson voting for the spending package, once again with the majority of the Democrats. as I see it now, I'm not sure there's a difference between Mike Johnson being in charge and the Democrats being in charge. The deficit this year will be $1.5 to $2 trillion, and that's Mike Johnson's bill. He put it forward. He supported it with a minority of Republicans, with a majority of Democrats. This is not using the power of the purse. This is abdicating the power of the purse.
Well, last night, Senator Paul, while he was in the mood, warned Donald Trump to steer clear of supporting Johnson's aid spending. Paul said it would cost Trump critical support this election year. I'm sure that counsel was appreciated. But reckless spending is just one of 100 reasons that Trump should drop Johnson. Paul is right. Having Johnson as Speaker is the same as having the Democrats in charge. And joining us now to discuss all of this is Congressman Andy Ogles of Tennessee. He's been staunchly outspoken against sending more aid to Ukraine. He believes America ought to be looking after its own sovereignty, borders, and issues first. Congressman, great to have you with us. We appreciate it. Do you disagree with Senator Rand Paul that President Trump should steer clear of Johnson?
Well, I mean, when you look at whether it was the $1.2 trillion, spending bill that was passed, whether you look at the FISA without the warrant requirement, and now this aid package that's being put forward, I mean, this is bad policy after bad policy after bad policy. And so, I think Rand Paul's right. If I'm Donald Trump, I don't advise him to get anywhere close to these policies. They're all bad. And so, good words from the senator, because look, the speaker's my friend. I like him. However, bad play call after bad play call after bad play call. So our friendship doesn't change the fact that I oppose these policies. I mean, you can't, but we're barreling towards a $36 trillion in debt. We don't need to be spending more money the way we've been spending it. We don't need to be funding transgender proms up in the Northeast somewhere, what that bill did. You look at the FISA bill that passed, warrantless spying on Americans. We know there's been over 3 million queries against Americans. We know that they were spying on Americans. Some of the individuals were spying on their girlfriends. So there's loopholes in this thing that you could drive trucks through, 3 million of them to be exact. And so that's got to be fixed. And now you have this aid package that is absolutely absurd. And it's putting America last instead of America first.
Congressman, Johnson was talking to Jake Tapper over at CNN, and I couldn't believe it. He started talking as if he had invented the idea that there was a different aid package for an Indo-Pacific nation, or there would be a different aid package for a European nation, or perhaps a different one for Israel. He talked about that as if that were molecular biology. And here's the truth. The truth is we find out now that talking about changing this aid to loans, well, he was lying through his teeth. Those aren't loans. Those are called loans, but giving Biden the right to forgive those loans by 50% initially, and in some cases within 100% of those loans converting to aid at the whim of the President of the United States. I mean, this is a man who's lying through his teeth on issue after issue, whether it's spending, whether it is the betrayal of the conference in moving forward with the $1.2 trillion spending package, as you said. Now, you said you like this man. I can't like this man because what he's doing is tearing this country up.
It's creating a lot of division within the Republican Party. And so how did we get the $1.2 trillion spending debacle? Well, Johnson goes over to the Senate and says, you know what, guys, I'll never shut down the government. Well, guess what? His only leverage point is to shut down the government or blame a faction. Say, look, those guys over there, if we don't come up with something better than what you're proposing, they're going to shut down the government. I'm here to fix this. Let's fix it. But instead, he immediately concedes his leverage. And now you look at, this aid package that's being proposed. I mean, the fact that Joe Biden is endorsing it, hard stop. Every Republican should be against it, because if Joe Biden is for it, that tells you that his cronies are getting payoffs, his allies are getting money, And it's hard-earned taxpayer dollars that we shouldn't be spending. And look, you'll have more Americans that are going to die because of fentanyl this month than the conflict with Ukrainians in the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. And so let's start caring about Americans. Let's shut down this border. Oh, by the way, we've caught over 300 terrorists at the southern border. So it's gone up from 250 to 300 in just a few months. And so this has got to stop. And again, I'm not America alone, but I am America first. And we've got to stop putting all, Ukraine before Americans. And the Taiwan aid, by the way, there's a provision in there that the president can divert some of the aid away from Taiwan to where? To Ukraine. So this is a pig with a lipstick. You can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. This is bad legislation. It's bad policy. Mm-hmm. And what it is, it's the Schumer, McConnell, Biden aid package that Johnson is now advocating for.
And a puppet president is a puppet president. This puppet president has done more to send this country reeling, to destroy basic, whether it be turning over the southern border to the Mexican drug cartels. People forget we almost twice as many people as those killed in the Vietnam War are killed every year in this country by fentanyl. And we have people walking around like zombies, indifferent to those deaths, indifferent to who is responsible for those deaths, and indifferent to the idea that there should be an accounting. We have become a nation so tolerant that we couldn't possibly rise up and demand that they not shred our Constitution, these Marxist Dems. We wouldn't want to in any way suggest they not mutilate our children in the name of gender affirmation, transgender affirmation, whatever you call it. We have turned into I don't know what to call us right now. Do you, Congressman?
Well, I mean, we have a republic of free states. The majority rules. And unfortunately, what's happened is the Democratic Party has been taken over by a very loud, very militant, very small portion of their party. But what's happened is they've weaponized the Democratic Party against the American people. So we need a speaker that's going to stand up and fight. And you say, you know what? Oh, and by the way, guys, we have 3 branches of government. So it's not, the speaker's job to go ask Biden permission to send over an aid package. It's not the speaker's job to go to the Senate and say, what will you accept? It's our job as a House of Representatives to put forward, legislation that the people support, that is in the best interest of our country. John Quincy Adams talked about that you argued and you debated in the House of Representatives. It was the people's house. It's where we did the people's work. But when the speaker goes all over to the Senate and concedes, it's not the people's house anymore. It's the Senate's house, right? If you're going to the White House and you're conceding, it now belongs to the White House. We've got to bring back the fight to our institution and save this great nation. We're going bankrupt. Right? We're funding and securing borders in other countries. Meanwhile, we're being overrun. This is simple stuff. But again, here we are. Our only chance to kill this aid package is to kill the rule, which presumably will be voted on tomorrow. And so,
well, Congressman, it's always
taken. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Finish, please.
I was going to say, well, the Freedom Caucus has taken an official position to oppose the rule. We're encouraging other Republicans to vote against the rule, which is the first step in the speaker trying to pass this legislation, but it's going to be the only opportunity we have to kill it.
Well, certainly I hope you kill it. And I hope you get rid of I know you are, Congressman, and we appreciate it so much. It's great to have you here, and thanks for joining us, and good luck with all the tumult that is surely to follow in the weeks ahead. And before we go to break, MyPillow is excited to announce they're having a huge spring sale. Here are a few examples. Buy one MyPillow 2.0 and get another one absolutely free. These pillows are made with cooling technology, which means the best pillow just got even better. And this just in, 9 brand new colors and styles of their percale bed sheets. They're made with the finest long staple cotton, and now you can save 50% or more. That's as low as $24.98 a set. And for the first time this year, the My Slippers and sandals are as low as $25 a pair. So go to mypillow.com and use promo code Dobbs or call 800-977-9152 to get the MyPillow 2.0 buy one, get one free, or the Percale sheets for as low as $24.98 and My Slippers and Sandals for as low as $25 a pair. For a limited time, when you order $75 or more, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com and use promo code Dobbs. Coming up, nothing is as entertaining as watching Marxist Dems reveal just how foolish they are in a public setting. Plus, an update on the border invasion. Speaking of, well, foolishness and tragedy, that's straight ahead. Stay with us. The news is often so dark these days, as you've probably noticed, that it's hard to find a little levity occasionally. Well, thankfully, we have footage for you of Florida Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo publicly humiliating a rather ignorant Congresswoman, certainly insultingly so, Becca Balint. Watch Dr. Ladapo just eviscerate her as she tries to grill him and embarrass him about Florida's COVID response. It doesn't end well for her.
Are you a specialist in infectious diseases?
I am board certified in internal medicine, and internal medicine doctors take care of a wide variety of patients.
Understood. Are you a specialist? I asked a very specific question. Are you a specialist in infectious diseases?
I am board certified in internal medicine.
Okay, the answer, I guess, is no, which is okay. We're moving on.
Diseases.
Are you a specialist in epidemiology?
I have PhD
I see where you're
training
going. Okay,
in epidemiology.
So you are not a specialist in epidemiology.
I have
either.
PhD training in epidemiology and biostatistics and health economics.
Are you a vaccine researcher?
I am not a vaccine researcher.
The look on Dr. Ladapo's face there is priceless. It's a look of a Harvard-trained physician being challenged on his credentials by a circus clown. That's a pretty good analogy, I believe. It gets even better when Balint tries to recycle a fake news story from Politico. It's hard always to sort those Politico fake stories out, trying to discredit Dr. Ladapo. Watch again as she embarrasses herself.
April 24th, 2023, Political article, Florida Surgeon General altered key findings in study on COVID-19 vaccine. Why did you alter the information in that study?
Thank you for your question. That is factually incorrect. I did not alter any findings in any study, and I have a record of multiple NIH grants as a professor at UCLA and a professor at Florida, and those are not easy to get. The study you're talking about is a study that was very unpopular because we had a finding that actually was in sync with what you might expect from myocarditis, which is that we found that there was an increased risk of myocarditis and cardiac death in young people.
In your home state had said on the record to the press that you altered the study. Are you saying that is inaccurate?
I'm saying we have a study that showed that young men were at increased risk of cardiac. I've already answered that question, ma'am. I said absolutely not. I have never altered any study.
So there he is, and under fire, and it probably took some extraordinary self-discipline to not react to that kind of nonsense. No wonder Marxist Dems can't stand Dr. Ladapo. Just recently, Florida Congresswoman, oh yes, Debbie Wasserman Schultz called for his resignation because he broke with the Centers for Disease Control's guidance. Can you imagine breaking something that belongs to the CDC? That during a measles outbreak. There's nothing these people despise more than independent and brighter thought than theirs. Dr. Ladapo joins us now. He also has a book you should absolutely read, and it's entitled Transcend Fear. a blueprint, mindful leadership in public health, and Lord knows we need it. Great to have you with us, Doctor. And I've got to compliment you. I don't know the Congresswoman, but that is ignorance beyond belief. And you were as polite and calm as you could be. My compliments to you, sir. That took
Thanks very
some
much, Louis.
discipline. By the way, what was her point? Did you ever figure that out,
It's
or did
really
you want to
sad
bother?
because her yeah, it's so sad, right? It's
It
about
is.
games and winning, unfortunately, for so many people. And one of the games they play is the let's see how we can discredit you game. I mean, if Einstein had been testifying, she would have found a way to discredit him. It's so sad. It's not about information, it's not about the pursuit of truth. It's about these gimmicky wins and doing it at the expense of truth. And it's really sad. I mean, it's pathetic actually. It's depressing. It's disheartening.
Well, the class with which you dealt with her speaks volumes about your character and decency, and what she did, just as an expression of a serious IQ point deficit that she will never overcome. And I think she's fully cognizant of that deficit now. And I appreciate you being with us. And I want to talk about a lot of things, but I want to talk about, first of all, this aversion to talking about the invasion at the border and the diseases that are being brought across that border, controlled by the Mexican drug cartels now under the Biden regime. Why is there this reticence to talk about what is, in many cases, a serious problem brought to us on the, if you will, on the backs of these illegal aliens coming across the Mexican drug cartel's border?
Well, certainly, Governor DeSantis has talked a lot about these issues with fentanyl and other deadly drugs being trafficked across the border and
Mhm.
destroying the lives of Americans. I mean, it's really, really tragic. And I'd love to be in one of these meetings where Democrats are planning what they want to do about this and how they can continue to allow so many Americans to be injured by something that's preventable. And I really don't have insight there. I know that it's certainly a major health problem in Florida. We've seen also a lot of overdoses. We've taken steps to address it, and we've actually seen a drop in overdose death in Florida last year,
Yeah.
whereas you haven't seen that nationally. So we're doing a lot of good things, thanks to the governor, thanks to the lawmakers. But it's a tragedy, and I mean, there's so many. That's just one example. There's so many things where I just don't know what Democratic leadership has in mind. It's clearly not prioritizing the health of Americans or the well-being of Americans.
And every so often, every few weeks, it seems, the CDC or some agency, NIH, wherever it may be, comes out with some sort of spooky fear mongering about, what, in this instance, it's bird flu. The whatever it may be, they keep talking about disease X or any multiple of disease X, which doesn't exist but has 20 times the lethality, we're told, of COVID-19. This is becoming a monstrous pattern on the part of our public health officials in the federal government. The CDC, President Biden wants to make them subordinate to the World Health Organization, which is nothing more than a UN agency. How in the world are we going to straighten this out? And as soon as President Trump is elected, we can begin the effort. But what in the world are we doing to our public health system?
Yes, this whole World Health Organization, WHO pandemic so-called treaty, it's a way of ceding sovereignty sovereignty of individual sovereign countries and sovereignty of their citizens to some international organization. I mean, it's clearly rubbish. Unfortunately, you see this inclination for these terrible anti-human ideas, really unfortunately, mostly among liberals. And frankly, there are people on the other side of the aisle who are also on board with that kind of thinking. But it's terrible. It's so terrible. I'm glad you highlighted that.
Well, thank you, Doctor. And I'm glad that you highlight the lives of all Floridians through your care and your actions as the Surgeon General of that great state. We appreciate it, Dr. Oladipo, and look forward to seeing you again soon. All the very best to you.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Lou.
Thank you. Well, the invasion at the border and its consequences are taking a toll on American life each and every day. In Nevada, an illegal alien arrested over a car crash that left an advisor to Democrat Senator Catherine Cortez Masto dead. Immigration and Customs Enforcement confirmed to the New York Post that the suspect entered the country in 2021. And meanwhile, illegal aliens in cities like Denver and Chicago are complaining, well, they're just not getting paid enough. They can't pay their rent with the money that they are given by local governments, by the federal government, by NGOs, by nonprofits. These people are really, America should be ashamed of itself. Illinois expanded its asylum seeker emergency rental by just $160 million measly dollars last year. That money, your money, covering the cost of housing and more. But it's not enough, say the uninvited and utterly ungrateful guests. They're demanding more. And if you thought wokeness was dying, well, guess again. In North Carolina, a high school student was just suspended for uttering the expression illegal alien. That is not a slur, ignorant people of that school. That is not a slur. That is a technically legal term. However, the geniuses at Central Davidson High School need to take a remedial class. They decided it was racist toward Hispanics. But to assume all Hispanics would be offended is, by the way, pretty darn racist and pretty darn condescending and pretty darn ignorant. The stupidity is boundless in that school, and I would suggest to that school that they apologize to the young man and make certain that they show greater sensitivity to not only Hispanics, but all of the nationalities and ethnicities that are crossing the border as, are you ready for it? Illegal aliens. And coming up here next, a Trump juror sworn in by Judge Merchant, one of our very favorite compromised, politically corrupt judges, admits that she hates Donald Trump. That's next, and she was going to be on the jury, but by luck and coincidence, that didn't happen. But who knows about all those others? We'll be right back. Welcome back. The Mayorkas impeachment is dead, but the fallout remains. The dirty deed done by Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer Wednesday, who, like the scoundrel he is, donned a creepy grin to announce he was ending the trial with a simple majority vote. And more than half of the jurors required for the Trump trial say they couldn't be impartial. We don't know how many people are lying either way. We want to show you, though, how carefully they're screening these jurors, like the one you're just about to see, who just got dismissed because of a scheduling conflict. Listen to this highly impartial juror and New York style.
Can you share your opinion of the former president and why you felt that you could be unbiased?
I'm not a fan. During COVID-19, I lived with someone who was immunocompromised, and I think his handling of COVID-19 was abysmal. I have a sister who's adopted from China, and the comments he made about China when he was running for president made her very anxious, and therefore made me angry. There are policies he has supported that regard women and reproductive health that I do not agree with. And I think all of that needs to be addressed.
Man, you ask a question, you get an answer. That juror would have been on the trial jury if she hadn't had that scheduling conflict. Think about what that would have meant to put that person on the jury. Lord help us. By the way, they've had to pull 5 of the jurors that they have impaneled, 5 out of 7. It's taken all this week to get those 7. I think they had them by Tuesday. Now they find out, they're not exactly who we thought they were one way or the other. The judge is taking these people back out of the panel, and it's amazing to watch this pathetically corrupt, politically corrupt judge administer what he calls a trial. What a joke the entire New York judiciary is. Joining us now to talk about the Trump criminal trial is attorney Harmeet Dillon, founder of the Center for American Liberty, and it is great to have you with us. Let me just turn first to what we're witnessing right now on the part of the judiciary of the great state of New York. It looks like it's rotten to the core with what we're seeing out of Judge Merchant and the prosecutor's office. Your reaction to it all, as Donald Trump has now entered the 9th year of political persecution?
Well, first of all, there are many great judges in New York State. I'm honored to be a member of the bar there. But one of the quirks there in the system is that the same judge stays on cases, even in criminal matters that are deemed related. And so in this case, the prosecution, bringing this incredibly dubious prosecution that the predecessor of Alvin Bragg had turned down, that federal prosecutors had turned down, that FEC attorneys have said is not a violation of federal law. He knew that he was bringing this in front of a judge who was already want to rule negatively against the Trump organization, because the same judge handled the Alan Weisselberg matter, the one of the financial accounting experts at the Trump organization. And this is what made Alvin Bragg comfortable bringing a zero case, a case that should never have been brought, a case that even liberal prosecutors say is a dog. It's called a zombie case. It's a Walking Dead case. That's why I felt comfortable bringing it. And I think the judge is acting in such a way that he knows he's going to be reversed. The number of slanted decisions that have already occurred even before the full jury is seated is incredible. It's an appellate lawyer's dream. And yet the goal here of the left is to simply snag a scalp. It's simply to say, we've got a felon running for president on the Republican side, don't vote for him. It is as cynical as that. But in the process, Lou, what these folks are doing is destroying confidence in the rule of law, in the judiciary, amongst Americans. And that is a long-standing damage that's going to occur to the legal profession.
Yeah. That is the legacy of the Marxist Dems. And by the way, and I understand you like a couple of judges or however many in New York State, but I have to tell you, the fact that they've let this clown show go on this long, what is obvious to every layman in the country that it is it's something out of the Stalinist era in the Soviet Union. This is preposterous. And by the way, the luminaries of the legal profession nationally are saying, and it's an absurdity. And yet no one in the New York State judiciary is calling out Merchant. No one is saying to Alvin Bragg, the George Soros-sponsored DA, no. They're not saying a word, and they're in fact letting this go on. Their acquiescence to corruption makes them what? I think corrupt. Your thoughts?
Well, look, so first of all, some aspects of the ruling so far have been appealed to the Court of Appeals. I believe the gag order is sitting there right now. And other aspects are not appealable until the end of the trial. And as to Alvin Bragg, his boss happens to be as bad, if not worse, than he is. At least Alvin Bragg hesitated in bringing this the first time around. His boss is ultimately Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, and we all know how biased and crazy her witch hunt has been against the Trump organization and President Trump. So we're not going to get any relief there. Relief, if it comes in this case after a negative verdict, is only going to be months down the road. But what could happen in this trial is if there's a single or two jurors who refuse to go along with this railroad job, this kangaroo court, this witch hunt, this travesty, then there could be a hung jury, a mistrial in this case, and that may not give the left enough time to restart the case. That is really, I think, one of the things we can hope for is that we get a single good juror.
New York judiciary is depending on the possibility that one juror would have integrity and put down this case. Isn't it strange to you is anybody doing any polling on the legal profession? The American Bar Association, none of the professional groups are saying stop this now, when it is an obvious obscenity, an insult not only to law and order and the shredding of our Constitution, which supposedly lawyers are supposed to be, are they not, officers of the court? This is strange to me that they are siding with the forces of evil in this case, and I say evil without any reservation, because this is the persecution of one man for a political purpose, that is to interfere in the 2024 election that he will surely win. And then we have all of these ridiculous rationalizations. The Marxist Dems have no, in my opinion, have no excuse not to have. I can't even understand why the judiciary in New York is in business, nor for that matter, the D.C. district courts.
Well, look, so the D.C. District Court is facing some challenges at the Supreme Court. The problem is that the wheels of justice grind very slowly. Some would say they don't grind at all anymore. There's a lot of sand that the Democrats have thrown into the gears of justice. But a Court of Appeals or the highest court in New York simply doesn't have jurisdiction over this jury verdict until there is a jury verdict.
It's a crisis. It's a crisis of the making, though, of the legal profession, the Bar Association, because they tolerate this, the law schools where they teach Marxism to their best and brightest students, and it turns out that they're just as sorry as the students that are C students maybe have an advantage over them. This is really a national crisis because our whole legal system is in question here. The entire judiciary is in question here, particularly in the blue states where they have just trampled citizen rights time and time again. Harmeet Dillon, we thank you for being with us. We appreciate it so much, and it's great to see you and look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks so much. All of you out there know that Mike Lindell and MyPillow no longer have the support of their box stores or shopping channels the way they once did. They've been part of this cancel culture, so they want to pass the savings directly on to you. They're having a $25 extravaganza to do it. When Mike started MyPillow, it was just a one problem, one solution company. Well, since then, with the help of his dedicated employees, they now have hundreds of products. Some of you may not even know about many of them. To get the word out, they're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows, just $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. Their 6-pack towel sets, $25. And brand new 4-pack dish towels, you guessed it, just $25. This amazing offer won't last long, so order now. Go to or call 800-977-9152 and use promo code Dobbs.
Mike Lindell here, and like you, I see our country being destroyed daily. We face massive economic issues, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, there are people in power who threaten the values that have made our country great. Well, I've been a believer in gold and silver for a long time, and I've searched for years for a partner that shares my values. Well, Genesis Gold Group showed me how easy it is to protect your IRA, 401k, or your retirement with gold and silver. Their faith